right, moving on to topic 3, and this is one that we've talked a lot about before, and I think it's very exciting because when it ever comes to sports, one of the big things that you like to talk about is what is the future? And I think oftentimes we obsess about who is the next LeBron, who is the next Tom Brady, and everything's like that. And we like to see, we get excited for teams that are going to be good in the future. We like to see that future value. So that's exactly what we're going to be talking about kind of in this segment here, because the question is, who is the best young core in the NBA? So there are a lot of really young teams in the NBA. It's pretty remarkable. You look at that draft order, all the guys are 19, 20 years old, that one and done thing that goes on, which leaves a lot of very young teams, especially now. This is a conversation really for another day, but they're going to probably go back to the high school draft where you can get those top high school players. And oftentimes Matt and I will be watching a couple games and we look out there and we're like, okay, half the unit out there right now is younger than us. And to put that in perspective, Matt and I are 21. So it's pretty remarkable seeing out there kids that would be sophomores in college just balling. And right now specifically, there are a lot of young studs in the NBA. So let's get into talking about who we think is the best young core and who do we think kind of is going to be the future of the league when it comes to teams that are going to be the face of the NBA. So
there's definitely no right answer here. I think that's the tough part. This is just our best guesses for the future.
Someone could totally come out of nowhere too. Some of these people may not pan out. We're trying to guess what they will be, but who knows what will happen. So as far as me personally, my thoughts for this, I feel like it's fairly undisputed here, but I feel like it's got to be the New Orleans Pelicans. These Pelicans are young. To put in perspective, here are some guys on their team. So you've got Jackson Hayes, who's 20, Zion, who just turned 20 this month. This guy was 19 when he was playing in the NBA, and they've got Frank Jackson, who's 22. Lonzo Ball, who, with all the talk, sounds like he's been in the league forever, but he's been in the public eye for a long time. The dude's only 22. He's only a year older than me. Brandon Ingram is the same age. Josh Hart's 25. Jahlil Okafor is 24. That's every single guy on that team is under 25. And part of their team, if they go to a club, they can't even go in or drink because they're under 21 years old. It's remarkable. So yeah, there are a lot of teams that you can find like that, a lot of ages that are really young, but why do I think the Pelicans are a step above? Why do I think they are the team of the future? And I think this can be answered really in one word to get started with, and that is Zion. Zion is young. Zion is a monster. We've never seen anyone like Zion before. We've never seen this body, this athleticism, someone this big with a point guard handle that can finish at the rim like that, that can bully veterans, that even gave Giannis some problems and would yank the ball from him in summer league, seeing it with Kevin Knox. Like, this guy is a man-child. And of course, we have to think about the health issue and aspect, but I think Zion, when healthy, it is hard to find someone or really find any key issues of his game. So that guy teared it up in high school. He set the world on fire at Duke, and I think he's going to be the next big thing. I think he's going to be the face of the NBA in the future. So, and he's also 20 years old. The dude is younger than I am. So I think that is the main reason when I think of the Pelicans being so good. But as far as other reasons, you got to think of the other guys on that team. I easily listed off that team, but if you really break it down, think of our guy Lonzo Ball, our UCLA Bruin that's out there, of course, that we're rooting for. He had maybe a little bit rocky start. Of course, spotlights on him. His dad put it on it for him. He's in Los Angeles, but he's kind of been quietly just balling out there. His shots are falling now. He's looking good. He can pass like no one's business. He's got a beautiful game when it comes to that. His shots are getting better. He has an amazing basketball IQ, something that LeBron really – and one of the reasons that LeBron was really excited to come to LA was Lonzo's IQ. It's something that can't really be taught, especially for someone his age, being able to see the floor like that. And then we talk about Brandon Ingram. We've got an all-star on that team that's 22 years old. One of the best young players that out there. They always say the second coming of Kevin Durant. And LeBron, when asked about Brandon Ingram, he's like, he's up next. And LeBron knows who can play and who can't play in the NBA. So it's kind of, but
I don't trust this guy. Who's this guy again?
yeah. Oh man, you might have heard of him. He's pretty decent.
Right.
So we've got these guys just took a little while to develop, and we don't know what their ceiling is. But if Lonzo Ball and Brandon Ingram pop to what they could be, it could be special, matched with Zion's ceiling of who knows what that is. But I think one of the key things that goes on is we can list a lot of young teams. There are a lot of young teams out there, but the only way someone young gets good, if you think of it in a schooling situation, you can be exceptional at math, exceptional at reading, but the only way you can be brought to your full potential is if you have an amazing teacher. And I think that has to do with the veteran presence on that team. So Jrue Holiday and JJ Redick are going to be the main people on that team. Jrue Holiday's 30 years old, also a UCLA boy. So there's a lot of UCLA guys on this team, a lot of studs there. And then I think you not ignore the presence of JJ Redick in that locker room. JJ Redick, if you're not familiar with him, don't know too much about him. He's probably one of the better, well-spoken guys in the NBA. You can just tell. I highly recommend just going on YouTube, looking up a lot of interviews with him. He has a great way of, communicating information and just speaking in a way that is just informative and straight to the point, and great leadership skills in him. And I think so. The reason I like JJ Redick so much is because he has a perspective that is necessary for these young guys. So Zion Williamson and Lonzo Ball have been in the spotlight forever. And I think having a veteran that can guide them through that is important. And the reason JJ Redick has that is because JJ Redick, during his time at Duke, is probably one of the most hated players that are out there. JJ Redick has talked about this in podcasts with Barstool Sports, and anywhere he went, he was booed. I think really anyone, if you think about, who's going to be the most hated player in sports, think about if you could create someone, someone at Duke who plays there for a long time, is pretty good, has whipped a lot of teams' tails. I think that's someone who a lot of teams are not going to like. And JJ Redick was hated, absolutely hated. I can't put that into context, for what it deserves, but JJ Redick is unbelievable. So having that perspective with a veteran, with guys like Lonzo Ball and Zion, who have a lot of haters and just the spotlight in general, being able to lead them through that locker room. So talking about egos and spotlight, the lack of egos on this team, despite the actual team itself, being so good, is really important. Brandon Ingram doesn't really talk. And, being an all-star who doesn't, have to showboat necessarily in Los Angeles, his personality didn't really fit. And Lonzo Ball just straight up is a chill guy, someone who if you hung out with, he's not going to talk himself up too much or his accomplishments. And, you want to hang out with him. You want to go out and talk with him, and he seems like a cool guy. His dad's the one that does all the talking for him.
Lonzo's he's got a good TikTok presence too.
Yeah, Lonzo's funny. He's this super chill guy, really cool in interviews. But then he's got this kind of fun spirit to him where he's posting videos and dancing. You're like, man, there's like these sides of Lonzo. Yeah. He's a good follow on social media if you guys want to entertain and make your social media a little more interesting. I recommend following Lonzo.
He kind of rap too. Don't forget about that.
Yeah, he's got some bars. You should look up as well. I'm always impressed with that. And then Zion is also super humble as well, for who he is, the talent he has, is always giving credit to others. He understands that this is a team game. It is not just him. And then lastly, most importantly, I think, is the styles match. Lonzo Ball being that immaculate passer with, you can have then Zion in the paint, doing his business there, beating everyone up. JJ Redick, is out in the corner, can be a shot down three maker. Don't know why the Sixers just let him walk away. And just, it really works. You got Ingram pulling up on the sides. And I think this just matches such a young team with veteran presence. I think the Pelicans are going to be scary in a few years.
I can't disagree with that. I think the Pelicans have a lot of pieces that are going to make for a very competitive team, and they're already a borderline playoff team right now. I like Zion. I think he's an amazing player when healthy, but I'm really, really, really skeptical of his health.
Yeah.
I mean, he's built like a bowl of gumbo. He's eaten well since he's gotten to New Orleans.
That is true.
I'm worried about him staying healthy. I mean, he's got injured a couple times here and there at Duke. He had that one nasty fall with his shoes breaking because he's just massive. So, I mean, I'm a little worried about Zion's longevity, but I can't say that I don't think the Pelicans are going to be a great team in the future. I think they have the pieces in place. So I'm excited to see what the future holds for them. However, they aren't my young core of choice. Obviously, everyone knows me as a fan of the Phoenix Suns.
Sir.
But bias aside, I think they have the best young core. And really, it's primarily because of one guy. Devin Booker.
Love it.
Devin Booker has been compared to Kobe Bryant since he's come into the league. I mean, he's just a nasty, nasty, nasty hooper. He can dismantle, he can destroy any defense that you put his way. I mean, he's already at 20, 22 years old, top 5 shooting guard in the league.
Yeah, he's lights out.
Incredible. And he's probably a top 5 offensive player in the league. One of the most dynamic offensive scorers. Obviously, his defense is a little lackluster, but it's improving. He's getting better. He's young. He's learning. And he was an all-star this year, although not probably in the fashion he would have liked to be, but he was an all-star for a reason. I mean, he gets his respect from the players in the league. He's disrespected a lot by the media. He's disrespected a lot by fans, but he is a baller. And now add in DeAndre Ayton. I already gave you my long discussion on why I think DeAndre Ayton is the most underrated player in the league. He's also sophomore season. He's young. He's a one and done out of U of A. He's a freaking beast. And once he came into the picture, the discussion shifted from Kobe to Kobe and Shaq 2.0. Obviously, very, very high bar.
Yeah.
May never even resemble that relationship, but they work so well together, especially now that Booker's developed his ball handling game with he can dish it out. You throw Ricky Rubio in there, who has led the league in assists this year, and that little duo of Booker and Ayton just works so well. Yeah. And then we forget about Kelly Oubre. The Suns robbed the Wizards. They gave obviously Trevor Ariza is a very talented player, but he's old. U of A or UCLA guy.
Yeah.
But he wasn't himself when we signed him. But we got Kelly Oubre, who is 24 years old. 24 years old. And slyly, he became one of the most improved players in the league.
Yeah.
He averaged roughly 19 points a game, 7 boards, and he dunked on pretty much every star in the league.
Yeah.
He was a human highlight reel this year. He was ridiculous.
Yeah.
He's a freaking beast. And so you have that sort of trio of the future, those 3 young guys, Booker, Ayton, Oubre, not only one of the most, not Ayton, but, they got a good looking team, That's a pretty sexy team right there.
They got swagger.
Oh, they got swag. They started the Valley Boys trend. And then you throw in Mikal Bridges. He was the 10th pick in the draft last year. And 2 drafts ago. He was the 10th pick for a reason. I mean, he played at Nova. He was a 4-year guy. He was a great 3-and-D guy in college. And now in his sophomore year, he's become a defensive menace.
Yeah.
He has clamped so many people in this league. It's ridiculous. He's such a talented defensive player. His offense is improving. His offense has shown flashes of that of, Brandon Ingram. And he's built, he's long. He has long arms. He's tall. He can slash, but he can shoot. So his offense is developing. Obviously, it's not where you'd want it to be a star player, but he's showing that role player potential. He's showing even, a starting caliber player potential. His defense is unmatched. And the starting lineup of Ricky Rubio, Devin Booker, Kelly Oubre, Mikal Bridges, and DeAndre Ayton was, in terms of net plus minus, was the best lineup in the league. The most efficient lineup in the league right there. It was an extremely talented team. Obviously, where they lack is the depth, but that's something that's just a matter of roster changes, not really their core.
Yeah.
So they also got a very interesting pick. When they picked Cam Johnson this year, the 11th pick, I was frustrated. I think even his own teammate, Kobe White, he was shocked that Cam went that high.
Yeah, I remember that.
And I was like, who is this guy? I mean, I watched him a little bit at UNC. and I was like, okay, he's pretty good. But when I saw him in the league, I was impressed. He's tall. He's a tall guy, plays a three, and he has slightly become one of the best catch and shoot players in the league. He shot about 40% clip from three on catch and shoot threes. I mean, that's a strong weapon to have. Those are the type of players you see on like the Milwaukee Bucks that when developed become very important to giving your stars space. So space creation, that's what the Sixers lack. Why I don't think they are a championship caliber team is because they don't have that spacing. So once you get that spacing, but primarily Booker, Oubre, Ayton, Bridges, that four I think is such a strong, powerful core for the future. I think they're a couple players away from being a championship team.
Yeah.
Obviously, another star in the picture would be huge. I think they lack a strong four. Dario Saric, good role player, but he's not what the Suns need. So I think, a couple roster tweaks, couple roster changes, maybe a scoring point guard.
Yeah.
And they become a playoff ready team.
Yeah.
I think they get heckled too often. I think Booker scored 70 points in a game at 20 years old.
Yeah.
He's a pure scorer. He's working on being a leader. The reason they haven't been successful in the past is the amount of inconsistency surrounding their star player. I mean, Devin Booker gets the unfair burden of having, I think he's had 4 or 5 different coaches in his tenure in Phoenix. He's had almost no teammate that stayed with him since he's entered the league.
Yeah.
Now they have Monty Williams, who everyone wanted. The Lakers were fighting for Monty Williams.
Yeah,
so they're having consistency. They're going to have returning players, a returning coach. They're going to have the pieces in place. Pelicans, Suns, Grizzlies, these young teams, consistency is huge. And so I'm really excited for the future of the NBA. Obviously, as a Suns fan, I'm excited for the prospect of what's to come for the Suns, which I didn't think I would ever say.
I'm excited to see
stretch of since growing up watching Steve Nash play to watching the Suns have a starting lineup that I barely even acknowledge or recognize. But now things are turning around, things are looking up. So I'm excited. I want to see them in the bubble.
Yeah, no, I'm excited to see that team. They can be, when all healthy. They got shooters on that team. They can be scary. And I think in a few years they'll be a hard out, and then they will eventually be contenders. And I think I saw the Suns too. When talking about young teams, they came to mind. Even teams like the Kings, the Grizzlies especially. I think why I ended up choosing the Pelicans, I was going to go with the Grizzlies, but also just the success right now. I mean, with this young team, the Pelicans are now they're eyeing for that 8th spot. They finish being they were in the 10th spot or so. They're competing right now. And I think that's what we hadn't seen with the Suns so far. Yeah, they're in the future, they'll compete, but they weren't right now. And with the young team, the young core they have, the Pelicans are competing right now. But regardless, I think in the Western Conference, right, the Pelicans and the Suns will have some great future matchups, and it's going to be fun, seeing Ayton even going up against Zion when they put Zion at the 5, and just seeing what happens. So regardless, we've certainly got a great future ahead for each organization, and it'll be excited to see.
I have to say, though, quickly, in defense of the Suns this year and their lack of competition. First of all, worst record in the league 2 years ago. Now they're in the bubble because they're not that far out from the 8th seed. I mean, they were pretty decently competitive this whole year. Yes. But they were one of the teams that were hurt most by the injury bug. They got hit with the injury bug early. They had at 1.7 of their players injured, and they got the injury benefits of having additional roster spots because of injuries. So, I mean, that obviously that doesn't excuse the fact that they were at times a terrible team this year.
Yeah.
But at times they were amazing. I mean, they destroyed the Mavericks in Dallas. They destroyed the Jazz in Utah. So they show flashes. I'm excited. Yeah. Pelicans obviously have shown their flashes as well. It's going to be a really interesting dynamic in the league in the future. And I think it's time for, the historically good teams to eventually fade out.
Yeah, they're getting older.
They're old. You know, LeBron can only be in the league for so long.
Yeah. True.
Hopefully, I love LeBron, but I need him to get out of the West.
Yeah. I liked it better when he was in the East.
Yeah, me too.